United Nations is discussing the Ukraine-Russia crisis at large. But what is the United Nations? Why was it formed? And how many members are a part of it? The concept of an international organization to promote world peace followed the end of the First World War. Its forerunner, the League of Nations, was set up in 1919 but ceased activities after failing to prevent a new conflict. The name United Nations was first used during the Second World War in a declaration on 1st January 1942. 26 countries pledged to continue fighting together against the Axis powers, Germany, Italy and Japan. The United Nations Charter was signed on 26 June 1945 by 51 original member states, representing 80% of the world's population. The UN was officially established on 24 October 1945 when the Charter was ratified. Its headquarters are based in New York in the United States and are considered international territory. The main bodies include the General Assembly, where all 193 member states are represented. It's here the main decisions are taken, provided there's a two-thirds majority. The Security Council is responsible for maintaining international peace and security. It has 15 members, 5 permanent with the right to veto and 10 non-permanent members. The Economic and Social Council is in charge of economic, social and environmental issues. The International Court of Justice, based in The Hague, is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. The Secretariat is home to the head of the organization, the Secretary General, who's appointed for a 5-year renewable term by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council.
You are watching India.
9 p.m. on the news today with me, Rajdeep Sardesai. Bhagwant Mann is sworn in as the new Chief Minister of Punjab. But the big question, can the Aam Aadmi Party use Punjab as a platform to emerge as a credible national alternative? That's going to be a talking point on the news today. Also on the show, a day after the Karnataka High Court ruled that the restrictions on hijab were justified, Kerala Governor Arif Mohammed Khan will join us on what he thinks is the way forward. All that and much more on the news today. News without the noise.
Co-powered by Ozone, अब चलेगी फिंगर की in association with SBI Life. अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए. Fujitsu General, the extreme machine. Mutual funds सही है. In a field awash with yellow, in midst of people high on change that they scripted, Bhagwant Mann takes oath at Bhagat Singh's ancestral village.
मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर दी सौं चुकदा हां कि मैं कानून द्वारा स्थापित.
After Punjab's apocalypse, Aam Aadmi Party rising on national stage.
Warm welcome, viewers. You're watching our coverage of what is perceived to be a red letter day for the Aam Aadmi Party, not just in Punjab, but it would hope on the national stage. And also, somewhere down the line, a watershed moment for the people of Punjab, because it is only after 1977 when we've seen a party which is a non-Akali, non-Congress party come to the centre stage with a historic verdict of 92 votes on 117, 92 seats of 117 constituencies. Well, today Bhagwant Mann took oath, which is, contradictory to what has been the usual norm, which is to go to the Raj Bhavan, which is not very far from where I'm standing, in Chandigarh. What he did? Well, he went to the ancestral village of, of what he's modelled his entire political career on, Bhagat Singh. He went to his ancestral village, he took oath in a field. It was a ceremony which was over in 9 minutes, but it was a ceremony which was watched by thousands of people. I was there and I can tell you, take a look.
मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर दी सौं चुकदा हां कि मैं
A historic day for Punjab.
भारत दे संविधान दे प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा ते निष्ठा रखांगा.
A highly symbolic and massively attended oath ceremony of AAP's Bhagwant Mann as the new Chief Minister. At the village of legendary freedom fighter Shaheed-e-Azam Bhagat Singh.
ना प्रगट करांगा इनकलाब जिंदाबाद। मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर की सौं चुकता हाँ कि मैं कानून द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा ते निष्ठा रखांगा। अपने कर्तव्यों के ठीक निभाने लिए जिहा करना लोड़ींदा होवे मैं सीधे जां असिद्धे तौर ते ना दसांगा ना प्रगट करांगा। इनकलाब जिंदाबाद।
AAP called it start of a revolution to transform Punjab. It was a riot of colours as AAP bigwigs and supporters in Basanti, a shade of yellow, turned up in large numbers. AAP leaders also sported turbans worn in typical Bhagat Singh style. As supporters broke into dance, Bhagat Singh's favourite song, Rang De Basanti Chola, rented the air. The victory of first non-Congress and non-Akali Dal Chief Minister since independence was celebrated with gusto. With Delhi Chief Minister and AAP Chief Arvind Kejriwal on his side, the man of the moment marked the start of an era of change in Punjab.
जिन्होंने आपां नूं वोटां नहीं भी पाइयां आपां उन्हां दे भी मुख मंत्रियां आपां उन्हां दी भी सरकार है कोई गल नहीं डेमोक्रेसी है हरेक नूं हक है पब्लिक जदों चाहे बंदा अर्श ते पब्लिक जदों चाहे बंदा फर्श ते
On the roll of dhol, supporters danced their way to welcome the new Chief Minister. Also among audience was the child who dons the look of Kejriwal himself and is a regular fare at AAP rallies and victory marches.
हमने वादे से ज्यादा काम करके दिल्ली में दिखाया है और वादे से ज्यादा काम करके पंजाब में भी दिखाएंगे।
भगवंत के लिए भी कह रहा हूँ कि जे तू आशिक बने आज नई चीज के मतलब एक उसने चुनी है कुर्सी जे तू आशिक बने आए चल दिला खेड़ी इश्क दी बाजी साडी वखरी नमाज साडी वखरी नियाज असी वखरी शराह दे काजी जे तू आशिक बने आए चल दिला खेड़ी इश्क दी बाजी.
The comedian turned politician thanked voters. Quoting Bhagat Singh profusely, Mann pledged to make Punjab start the journey of progress and attack the erstwhile government.
शहीद-ए-आज़म भगत सिंह का एक शेर इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है क्यों ना इस बार वतन की सरजमी को महबूब बना लिया जाए. देश की मिट्टी नूं प्यार करो बहुत कर्मां वाली मिट्टी है बहुत उपजाऊ मिट्टी है. खेती व्यापार करप्शन स्कूल हस्पताल बहुत ताणी उलझी पई है. जे किते ओदा एक सिरा लभ जे इधरले पासों वो अद्धे सेकंड च खुल जाती है. आपां इस उलझी हुई ताणी का सिरा लभांगे सही वाला सिरा तुहाडे सहयोग नाल जिन्हां हत्थां च आया 70 साल तो कुछ नहीं होया असीं तां बाहर नूं भज्जी जाने आ. आपां इत्थे रह के अपना मुल्क ही ठीक करांगे आपां अपना मुल्क ठीक करांगे नहीं बगाने दरां ते आपां ने धक्के खाने.
Mann's coronation marks the first step in Kejriwal's ambitious mission to go national. With Preeti Chaudhary in Punjab, Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, a lot went down today. Let's cut across to our reporters who tracked the oath-taking ceremony at Bhagat Singh's ancestral village. Well, I was there as well. So with me was also Kamaljeet Sandhu, Manjeet Sehgal, who's got a keen eye on the developments taking place right here at the Raj Bhavan. After the oath-taking, Bhagwant Mann came right here, in Chandigarh at the Raj Bhavan, and the guard of honor for the new Chief Minister, Bhagwant Mann, he received that and took charge. Tomorrow is going to be the big day when the other cabinet ministers are going to take oath. I'm going to ask Manjeet Sehgal, who could be the probables, and to get a larger picture on which way Punjab is going, and especially the Aam Aadmi Party stage now from Punjab, looking to get a fillip where the national ambitions of the party is concerned. I want to cut across to Kamaljeet Sandhu first. You know, Kamal, we were there together at the oath-taking ceremony of Bhagwant Mann. Very, very, different in terms of what we've seen with most leaders. One would have expected him to maybe talk a little more. His entire speech was no more than 7 minutes. That's the shortest speeches I would have possibly, heard, where a chief minister who's come with a huge mandate, like the one in Punjab, come and speak barely for 7 minutes, took oath in 1 minute. It was an event which was planned for over 8 days in advance, is what were people telling us, and it all ended in a flash. 10 minutes, it was done.
In a day and age where politicians speak at length, this one was relatively a short speech, full of rhetoric though. There was Inqilab Zindabad towards the end. But it's also not just about the speech. Aam Aadmi Party has a lot of expectations, so people will judge them on their work. Right now, it's all a time of revelry. His own family was there. We saw a lot of rhetoric, especially he has to pick his new team, his new cabinet, new names would do the round. And as you would say, that at least 80 of them are newbies. So in that particular sense, this is a totally unexpected result. This is also something that people are going to watch out for as to who's going to be the latest pick as far as the cabinet is concerned. Yes, he could have spoken at length. He could have spoken about the blueprint. A lot of people were expecting that. But yes, he's spoken earlier during his election speeches. He's spoken through his political satire. A comedian who's now at the helm of affairs, and this is all a serious business. So it will boil down to what he has. Obviously, people are looking at the announcements that have been made during his election speeches, which includes giving 1,000 rupees to women. This also includes infrastructure, whether it be about schools, about educational institutes, about hospitals. It's also going to be about how he also plans to bring, and remember, 2 of his own kids, they're studying in Canada, they're staying abroad. Many will question that as to how he's going to really stop that brain drain. How he's going to really create employment opportunities here. That's a huge task. Also, there are empty coffers. He's not been given much by the Congress party, who was at the helm of affairs for the past 5 years. So it's going to be a difficult task. More than that, we saw a as far as his face was concerned during the Amritsar roadshow. Today, he seemed a little more relaxed. Remember, there would be time given. But as he said, the work starts from Monday. The work starts from today. And says in 70 years, and that's the rhetoric that we heard even the BJP earlier making in election speeches, that the first time in 70 years work is going to be done. So huge. We'll really have to see which way Aam Aadmi Party goes. But after the Delhi and Punjab model, what they want to give in Himachal.
Kamal, stay with me. Kamal, stay with me. I want to bring in Manjeet Sehgal as well into this conversation because, yes, Punjab has a new chief minister, but Punjab doesn't quite have a cabinet just yet. Tomorrow is the D-Day where what we are getting to understand, 16 members of, Bhagwant Mann's cabinet will be taking oath at the Raj Bhavan. But who will those probables be? Will there be a deputy chief minister as well? There's a lot of buzz going on where Chandigarh is concerned. Earlier on, if you remember, Arvind Kejriwal had promised a Dalit deputy CM. Will Harpal Chima, who's been touted as a possible Dalit face who could be the CM, a deputy CM, deputy to Bhagwant Mann, will he be the one? Who will be the probables? Some of them who lasted the 2017 defections would now be rewarded by a cabinet berth. Manjeet, what are you hearing in, what's the buzz in the Punjab political circles right now? Who's going to make it to that coveted list?
Well, Preeti, as you said, the Aam Aadmi Party has promised to the people of Punjab that the cabinet will have 2 deputy chief ministers, one each from a Hindu community and a Dalit community. So, as you said, Harpal Singh Chima's name was also doing rounds as a Dalit deputy chief minister. But as far as the Hindu face is concerned, Aman Arora could be one of them, and there are other incumbents as well. So the party is thinking on these lines, and the picture will be clear. But as far as the Thursday is concerned, Thursday, all 91 MLAs will be administered the oath. and the party is trying to decide the names who will be part of the cabinet. All we know is this, that there are 17 vacancies. One has been filled by the Bhagwant Mann himself, and 16 are to be filled in. Bhagwant Mann has also clearly told the party MLAs in his first CLP meeting that there is not enough room to accommodate more than 16 MLAs in the cabinet, but he will treat all the MLAs as his ministers and cabinet ministers. They should work for the party. But as far as Bhagwant Mann's speech, as Kamalji told, it was very brief. But his first day in the office, he also spent just 10 minutes in the office and briefly asked the officers to work for the government and to implement the pro-people policies which his government will introduce. So the cabinet picture is still not clear. A lot of names are doing the rounds, but only a few faces will be able to get a berth in the cabinet.
Okay.
The cabinet
Right.
is being decided, but all we know is this.
It's been anticipated, as my colleague Manjeet, right? Manjeet, what is being anticipated is that a lot of the second timers, those who withstood the defections, in 2017, who stood by the Aam Aadmi Party, they could very well be rewarded this time. And if you look from the entire chunk of 92, there are only 12 of that lot. 80 of them are first-timers who the first time ever fought an election as well. But stay on with me, Manjeet, because we're going to come right back to you on the list of promises that the Aam Aadmi Party has made to Kamaljeet Sandhu as well. But I want to bring in my colleague Harmeet Shah, who's been travelling through the course of Punjab. Harmeet, you've spoken to the people of Punjab at length over the course of the last 40-45 days. I want to ask you, and something that I got a taste of today, the Punjab electorate is very different than the Delhi electorate. There was Bhagwant Mann taking oath, thousands of people were there. But the minute you spoke to them, they're very clear right now on fixing responsibility and accountability. I spoke to this old woman over 70, and the first thing she says is, Ab daso, ab 1,000 rupiya kab aayega?
Yes, people have high expectations, but today's event, Preeti, was awash in nationalistic imagery, to say so. The way Bhagwant Mann presented himself, the overall Basanti color, which was all over, I think it had a different message for the national audience at the national stage. If you see, Basanti is the color of Bhagat Singh, associated loosely with Bhagat Singh, the villages of Bhagat Singh. So in today's event, at least, because the cabinet hasn't been formed, so he couldn't really have made any big announcements there. So symbolism was high, and the symbolism was patriotism on a nationalistic turf. So in today's event, this is my understanding that the Aam Aadmi Party has tried to position itself as an alternative, not to the Congress party, but to the saffron BJP, saying, okay, this is our brand, this is the Basanti brand of nationalism, which we are, interestingly starting off from a non-Hindutva state of Punjab. So in broader strokes, I think today's event was
When you look at popular culture there, one thing that they've picked on very clearly is messaging. And messaging has been very, very strong, especially today as well. If you remember, what you've just talked about, Basanti versus saffron. Who do you go for? You're directly speaking to the people. For them, Basanti stands for this and saffron stands for that. And you are right. They're pitching themselves right next to that.
Yes, absolutely. And it was a very smartly scripted event. They didn't deviate from the script. And Arvind Kejriwal, knowing that, Punjab is very much cagey about Punjabiyat and Punjabi. So he didn't really impose himself in today's advertisements also. If you see the full-page newspaper advertisements, you only see Bhagwant Mann there. You don't see Arvind Kejriwal in those advertisements. So in one sense, this is, of course, patriotism, but a distinct flavor of patriotism here, which is, I can say, which is secular patriotism, starting off from a non-Hindutva region of India, in North India especially.
Well, my nationalism is better than your nationalism. What nationalism do you stand for? With that, I'm going to close the show, but we're going to end it on this. It was a very, very brief ceremony, viewers. As brief as less than 10 minutes. You know, for an event which was planned through the course of 8 days. We met people who were working on the, entire operation coming together in terms of logistics, to put in tents. There were 50,000 chairs that were actually put today. It took over a week for people to come together and put an event together which lasted no more than 9 minutes. But it was those 9 minutes that the Aam Aadmi Party wanted to give out the loudest message from. Bhagwant Mann kept himself, limited himself to just an 8-minute speech, 1-minute oath-taking ceremony. For all of us who are asking when is the incumbent CM going to give his big interview? Well, we are expecting it after 1 month of governance because it seems Bhagwant Mann wants to come and speak to the press once he has something to show. That, okay, this is all that I've done, now talk to me. On the other hand, what Harmeet just pointed out, it was a very clear, subtle inception of a message, and they did it through now popular culture, songs, color. And Basanti versus Saffron was something that we could see very well, a message given out to the audience, and that audience was not just Punjab viewers. Will the audience outside Punjab, have traction where this messaging is concerned? The next test will be Himachal and Gujarat. Thank you all for watching. Up next is Rahul Kanwar.
Rahul Kanwar, 23 years of experience, 5 conflicts covered, unmatched time in war zone.
The first embedded operation in the history of Indian television journalism.
Gaurav Sawant, 28 years of reporting, 8 conflicts covered, unmatched hours in conflict areas.
Actual firing is taking place, the grads are firing.
Shivarur, 19 years of reporting, 5 conflicts covered, unmatched view of international crossfires.
And the AK guns are firing away.
Geeta Mohan, 18 years of reporting, 3 conflicts covered. When the world is at war, there is no compromise on India today.
We have to stand firmly and squarely with the people of Ukraine, and we condemn the Russian invasion.
Luckily, though, in all sign languages, this is the gesture for Putin.
We have brothers and sisters who are suffering in our industry who are in Ukraine. Everyone needs to do as much as they can.
This is the gesture for Putin.
I'm standing side by side with my brothers and sisters who are going through this, but we all need, as we know, to do more than wear a badge. We need to donate, we need to pressure our politicians to continue to create some kind of a refugee safety and a haven here for people who are suffering.
I think it's also important that arts are celebrated because arts do hold humanity together, and actually freedom of speech and the power of storytelling is something that I think Ukrainians would totally applaud.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. This is Ukraine's true danger zone. Up close and fearless in Ukraine's combat zone. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. This is Ukraine's true danger zone. Up close and fearless in Ukraine's combat zone.
You are watching India Today. You are watching
As Russia declared war on Ukraine, as the world was plunged again into crisis, with the only Indian team in the real war zone.
This is Mariupol. You hear a series. Hear this sound.
I will show you a quick, so to say, bombshell room tour.
I can smell the gunpowder in the air.
And without pause, India Today totally dominates viewership and smashes the competition. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
Ukraine has accused Russia of using Nazis' flaming onion bombs in civilian areas. International law bans the use of flaming onion bombs or white phosphorus shells in populated civilian areas. White phosphorus has often been described as a horrific weapon. It burns things to the ground, and if it does stick to your flesh, it will burn your skin. Russians are accused to be using these internationally banned bombs on civilians in the Donbas region. How dangerous is it? This colorless or yellowish translucent wax-like substance, which smells like garlic and ignites around oxygen, can cause some serious injuries and even death when it comes into contact with the skin or when it's inhaled or even swallowed. It is very hard to extinguish, and when it sticks to the skin or flesh, it makes the burn more serious. But white phosphorus are not banned. Although international law bans the use of white phosphorus shells in heavily populated civilian areas, it allows them in open spaces to be used as cover for troops. White phosphorus is primarily designed to take advantage of its smoke-producing properties to work as a cover. This is why the United Nations Convention on the Prohibition of Use of Certain Conventional Weapons exempts it from being an incendiary weapon. Incendiary weapons are designed to start fires or destroy sensitive equipment using fire. When it comes to white phosphorus, its effect to cause burn and injury are seen as incidental to its illuminant property, which is used as smoke cover for troops. So by the United Nations Convention on the Prohibition of Use of Certain Conventional Weapons definition, it strictly does not come under incendiary weapons. But it still does narrowly fall under convention guidelines which bans or restricts its use on civilian areas, as it can cause unnecessary or unjustifiable hurt as the substance burns fiercely and can cause horrendous injuries. Studies have shown that the effects of white phosphorus is severe, especially on infant mortality, cancer and leukemia. White phosphorus munitions have been used on battlefields to make smoke screens, generate illuminations, mark targets or burn bunkers and buildings as well. In 2004, the United States acknowledged using white phosphorus in Fallujah, Iraq. In 2006, Israel used white phosphorus shells during the Israel-Lebanon conflict. During the Gaza war of 2008 and 2009, Israeli military were accused of using white phosphorus shells in populated areas, which the Israeli army then denied. The Taliban have also been accused of using white phosphorus during the US-Taliban clash near Bagram. During the Syrian civil war, white phosphorus was used via airstrikes and artillery attacks. By the looks of it, these chemical bombs were used by militaries across the world by exploiting this legal grey area of international law of warfare.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
You are watching India Today.
At 9 p.m. on the news today with me, Rajdeep Sardesai. Bhagwant Mann is sworn in as the new Chief Minister of Punjab. But the big question, can the Aam Aadmi Party use Punjab as a platform to emerge as a credible national alternative? That's going to be a talking point on the news today. Also on the show, a day after the Karnataka High Court ruled that the restrictions on hijab were justified, Kerala Governor Arif Mohammed Khan will join us on what he thinks is the way forward. All that and much more on the news today. News without the noise.
He reports amidst the attacks.
Very close. It was just on top of us. Everybody on the ground.
He reports amidst the shellings.
Bombing is coming closer to us. Everybody's running now. Panic everywhere.
He reports from cities under siege. A Special Forces veteran's unmatched view of the war.
They're firing. They're firing on us now. Because I tried to show them on the camera.
Okay, you need
go, go. Don't stop, bro. Don't stop.
Soldier reporter Rajesh Pawar, only on India Today. Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Growing Legacies. Co-presented by Century Ply. Aag se Bachai. Co-presented by Macho Hint. Fashion Bade Aaram Se. Co-presented by Sensodyne. Co-presented by the New Age Baleno. Tech goes bold. Co-powered by Sera. Kuch pal ghar ke naam. Co-powered by Apollo 24/7. Download now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Rahul Kamal and you're watching the News Track. On the day Bhagwant Mann was sworn in as the Chief Minister of Punjab, I asked the question, can the Aam Aadmi Party be the natural and national replacement to the Congress? That's my top focus on the News Track tonight.
With blood of Bhagat Singh, Bhagwant Mann begins.
मैं भगवंत मान ਈਸ਼ਵਰ ਦੀ ਸਹੁੰ ਚੁੱਕਦਾ ਹਾਂ।
Comedy king has the last laugh. Called a drunkard, he now says cheers. The Neta who led Punjab's upheaval.
इनकलाब बोले सो निहाल।
Sworn in at Punjab's most hallowed site.
बहुत तुहानू मुबारकां, सारिआं नू बहुत ਵਧਾਈਆਂ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।
Punjab ka मान. Top focus on News Track.
Here's a quick look at the headlines I'm tracking tonight. Russia continues to bomb Ukrainian capital Kiev. Disturbing video shows alleged killing of a man in Russian tank fire. After 21 days of war, is there hope of a compromise? Ukraine President Zelensky reiterates he won't join NATO. Russia open for negotiation. After taking on the Gandhis, Kapil Sibal faces flack from Congress leaders. Crucial meet of the rebel G23 camp begins. Tharoor and Mani Shankar Iyer join in. Protests across Karnataka as pro-hijab students boycott classes after the High Court verdict. Students say hijab is their right. Colleges enforce uniform mandate. COVID-19 vaccination for kids aged between 12 and 14 begins. Biological ease Corbevax being administered. Registrations open on the Covin app.
Co-presented by Berger Paints. Paint your imagination. Powered by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Education for life, education for living. Co-powered by AU Bank. Badlaav humse hai.
In Shahid Bhagat Singh's village, Bhagwant Mann was sworn in as the new Punjab Chief Minister today. Mann was cheered on by a sea of Basanti pagdis and scarves, and the crowd was cheering for the Aam Aadmi Party and hoping for a new Punjab. Delhi's Chief Minister and top AAP leaders were in attendance, all wearing yellow turbans. The message was clear. AAP thinks this is the beginning of a revolution inspired by the original revolutionary Shahid Bhagat Singh. In a moment from now, we'll look at whether AAP can expand nationally and become the national replacement for the Congress party. But before that, here's our lead story.
Rang de Basanti. If a phrase could describe Bhagwant Mann being sworn in as the Chief Minister of Punjab, that would be it. From the young to the old, there was a sea of yellow and the sound of revolution. The setting, Bhagat Singh's village, and the symbolism reclaiming his legacy. It was also very personal. Bhagwant Mann's children Seerat and Dilshan had specially flown in from the United States to attend the ceremony. The kids live with their mother, Mann's ex-wife, Inderpreet. The man of the moment, Bhagwant Mann, arrived waving on stage. Also present were Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia and Raghav Chadha, all sporting Bhagat Singh-style Basanti turbans. Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann was sworn in close to 1:30 p.m.
मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर ਦੀ ਸਹੁੰ ਚੁੱਕਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਥਾਪਿਤ ਭਾਰਤ ਦੇ ਸੰਵਿਧਾਨ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਸੱਚੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾ ਤੇ ਨਿਸ਼ਠਾ ਰੱਖਾਂਗਾ।
The comedian turned politician relied on humor and humility during his speech. Quoting Bhagat Singh, Mann pledged to make Punjab start the journey to progress and attack the erstwhile Congress government.
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਆਜ਼ਮ ਭਗਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ੇਰ इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है, क्यों ना इस बार वतन की सरजमी को महबूब बना लिया जाए। देश दी मिट्टी नू प्यार करो, बहुत कर्मां वाली मिट्टी है, बहुत उपजाऊ मिट्टी है। खेती, व्यापार, करप्शन, स्कूल, हस्पताल बहुत तानी उलझी पई है। जे किते ओदा एक सिरा लभ जे इधरले पासियों ਉਹ ਅੱਧੇ ਸਕਿੰਟ 'ਚ ਖੁੱਲ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਆਪਾਂ ਇਸ ਉਲਝੀ ਹੋਈ ਤਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਸਿਰਾ ਲੱਭਾਂਗੇ, ਸਹੀ ਵਾਲਾ ਸਿਰਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ। ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੱਥਾਂ 'ਚ ਆਇਆ 70 ਸਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਨੂੰ ਭੱਜੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੁਲਕ ਹੀ ਠੀਕ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੁਲਕ ਠੀਕ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਨਹੀਂ ਬਗਾਨੇ ਦਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੇ ਧੱਕੇ ਖਾਣੇ। ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ।
He ended his speech with a war cry for Inqilab.
Inqilab! Inqilab! Bole so nihal!
Mann's coronation marks the first step in Kejriwal's ambitious mission to go national.
दिल्ली के मॉडल की पहुंच आज पंजाब में आई है। बेहतर शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, बिजली, पानी, केजरीवाल जी की गारंटी, उसको पंजाब ने अपनाया है। भगवंत मान की ईमानदारी पर लोगों ने भरोसा जताया है।
Hours after being sworn in, Bhagwant Mann took charge as Chief Minister of Punjab under the watchful gaze of Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh and the father of the Indian Constitution, B.R. Ambedkar. With Preeti Chaudhary, Bureau Report, India Today.
Can the Aam Aadmi Party become the national alternative to the Congress party, which seems to be in free fall with absolutely no sign at this moment at least of a revival? Because remember, in that big CWC meeting, they said that Sonia Gandhi must continue, clearly not realizing and recognizing where the problems lie, and so far doing nothing to try and fix it. AAP seems to be hungry, they seem to be on the ascendant, they've won twice over in Delhi, they won big in Punjab, and have the ambition and the appetite to spread their wings further. Is this a castle in the sky, or can this be the new reality? Joining me on this broadcast, I want to welcome first Ashish Khaitan. He is here in his capacity as a political analyst, but has been a member of the Aam Aadmi Party and therefore knows its strengths and weaknesses from the inside. We've got with us, representing the Aam Aadmi Party on this broadcast, Reena Gupta. Representing the Congress, which seems to be in free fall at this moment, is Charan Singh Sapra. We've got with us on this broadcast representing the BJP on how they think of AAP as a challenger to the Congress and what AAP versus BJP means in the context of how easy it is to beat the Congress. We've got Syed Zafar Islam, Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha, spokesperson of the BJP. We've got Sanjay Jha joins us. He's been on the inside in the Congress, now on the outside, understands the opposition anti-BJP space well. Harmeet Shah Singh understands the ins and outs of Punjab. He's our senior editor at India Today Television. So welcome to all our guests. I want to go across to Reena Gupta first. For her to explain from an AAP perspective why this idea of AAP being the natural and national alternative to the Congress is something that you think is not just rhetoric but could potentially be the new reality, and what kind of time frames have you set in mind to actually make this come true? Reena, can you hear me, ma'am? Okay, give me a moment. I'll try and fix that connection with Reena Gupta in just a moment. Let me ask Ashish Khaitan in the meanwhile, as somebody who's been on the inside in the AAP, had his differences, decided to walk out, was once a bright AAP star, now outside the AAP firmament. What's your assessment of this AAP declamation that they believe they can be the national alternative to the Congress? Can this happen? If so, why? If not, why? Ashish.
Yeah, first of all, I decided to walk out because I wanted to pursue law as a career, so there were no internal differences. But coming to your important question, which is that is Congress replaceable now, and whether AAP is in our best position to replace Congress. So in terms of electoral politics and election victories or defeats, Congress is perhaps at its lowest point right now. But I would not see Congress just as an entity which fights elections. I would see Congress as a larger idea, the idea which has been around for 150 years, and the idea which is at the very core of the idea of India, which is the idea of constitutional politics, politics of constitutional democracy, the idea of deepening fundamental rights and civil liberties, and while simultaneously pursuing social revolution, and at the same time preserving social national unity and integrity. So I would say Congress is that idea. Whether that idea is replaceable, the answer is no. whether any other party can occupy that space of constitutional democracy, that party that absolutely believes in constitutional democracy, is willing to enfranchise and empower the most depressed and disadvantaged sections, whether any other party can occupy that space. Yes, that space perhaps has opened up, and whether AAP can occupy some or most of its space is a question that is still open, and the jury will still be out because it is early days right now.
Sure, it is early days. The jury is indeed out. Reena Gupta, if you can hear me, your assessment of why you believe that this claim that AAP can be the national and natural replacement to the Congress is not just a castle in the sky, but something that you believe you can make happen, and what kind of time frames do you have in mind to turn this rhetoric into reality?
So Rahul, right now, the priority for us is deliver on all the promises that we've made in Punjab. Make sure that in a time frame, in a time-bound manner, we deliver on all these promises in Punjab. That's point number one. Point number two, Rahul, it is for the people of the country to choose who's going to be the Chief Minister and who's going to be the Prime Minister of the country. As far as Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, what we are saying is that the good model of governance that we've shown in Delhi, Kaam ki Rajniti, Shiksha ki Rajniti, Swasth ki Rajniti, this is the model that we want to take to the rest of the country. Now, wherever people see Aam Aadmi Party, they see a good Sangathan, they see us as an alternative, people will vote for Aam Aadmi Party. And if you see in the recent municipal elections in Gujarat as well, Rahul, in Surat and in Ahmedabad, Aam Aadmi Party got very good results. We got 20 to 30% vote share in both of these municipalities. So wherever, the people are ready to look for a good alternative, clean politics, clean governance, and they are tired of the traditional politics like you saw in Punjab. The Akalis and the Congressis had ruled Punjab for 50 years. But, there were all of these scams, Reta scam, drug problem, all of these problems, and people were realizing that the parties kept changing, 5 saal main khao, 5 saal tum khao, but the condition on the ground for the common people was not changing. And that is the reason why they decided to give Aam Aadmi Party, Arvind Kejriwal, a chance. So, Rahul, this is our message that the dream of Baba Sahib and the dream of Shaheed Bhagat Singh, we want to make that dream realized
Charan
in the
Singh
whole country.
Sapra,
It might take us longer.
It's a real fall from grace for the Congress, far from being the principal challenger to the BJP. That battle, most people think the Congress can't fight, at least not in its current avatar. The question that's now being asked is the Congress strong enough to take on AAP, or will AAP replace the Congress also? Will whatever little space the Congress has left be taken over by the Aam Aadmi Party? It just shows how the tide has turned from the Congress, where you're not even seen as being the national, natural alternative to the BJP. Now you've got people like Kejriwal, like Mamata Banerjee gunning for you.
See, Rahul, in democracy, Aam Aadmi Party, or in fact any other party, has all the right to give such a statement. But I feel in the days to come, it may not be. It might not be neither natural or national, alternate for Congress party. Let me give you some examples. In these 5 state elections itself, they were 0 in Uttarakhand, and probably they got 2 seats in Goa. And rightly, I would like to also say that Aam Aadmi Party is eyeing at what you are saying, that they want to become an alternate to Congress. Why I am saying this? Because if you see the results of Uttarakhand, I have studied the results of Uttarakhand constituency-wise, even Goa, which is the adjoining state to Mumbai where I live. And in these results, what I have seen, and even in the campaign of Aam Aadmi Party, they have been fighting against Congress. They have not fought against BJP, which was the ruling party in both the states. Even in their campaign, as well as if you see the constituency-wise, we have seen that Aam Aadmi Party has taken away the votes of Congress party, and they have not at all damaged the BJP. So I feel their inclination is towards that only, that they want to become a national alternate in 2024. but it won't happen because as I would like to say that we are already ruling 2 states. We are having leader of opposition in 10 states, and we have cadre all across the country, which probably Aam Aadmi Party is not having now. So it is a long way they have to go, and Congress, like Mr. Khetan said, 137-year-old party, it is there in the DNA of every Indian, and Congress party is not going to sit idle. We are re-strategizing the things. The Congress working committee has met. The leaders at the state levels have been asked to formulate the strategies, to give the reports that how we have lost each constituency. Constituency-wise report is coming. We are going into micro restructuring thing, and also the Congress elections are coming. The internal membership drive is on. Let me tell you, in 27 states and 3 regional Congress committees, till today, new membership drive has started, and nearly 1 crore people have registered themselves as member. And till 31st March it will go on, and probably we might have more number of members in that. So I feel the total restructuring of Congress party is coming within 3-4 months, and that will definitely energize the Congress party.
Well, you can hope for it as a member of the Congress, but so far the people who are watching at this time haven't seen any sign that the Congress is serious about reform or restructuring. Sanjay Jha, as somebody who loves the idea of the Congress and has been part of the Congress, how seriously do you think this claim by the Aam Aadmi Party ought to be taken, that AAP could be in some time to come? Yes, they're not national, but the Congress is a shrinking force, the AAP is a growing force, that in time to come, AAP could be the new Congress.
Well, Rahul, first and foremost, AAP needs to be congratulated for an extraordinary performance. I've been critical of AAP for multiple reasons, but, you have to hand it to them that, they have grit in them. I think the word grit is one of the most powerful ingredients in life and in politics. They were there, actually did well in the last assembly elections. Perhaps they somewhere down the line bungled in the end, but eventually they have succeeded. And your question is valid because, my friend Charanjit is right in being, sanguine about how the Congress can fight back. We all know the Congress can fight back. And I think Ashish made the valid point that the Congress encapsulates the philosophy of this great country. However, the truth is, as a political organization whose main purpose is to win elections, to propagate your ideology, and to implement your programs for the common people, the Congress is completely, at the moment, probably reached a dead end. So, that can the Congress revive? Absolutely. Can the Congress bounce back? Of course, because in politics, Rahul, you know it better than me, there are no permanent winners, there are no permanent losers. However, the fact needs to be stated today that I do believe that people who don't like the BJP or who understand that Mr. Modi's rhetoric and all the dramatics, etc., are basically high on style and low on substance, are looking for an alternative. I don't want to give you too many anecdotes, but I have people here in Mumbai, which, by the way, I think is a bustling, cosmopolitan mind of India, who tell me that they vote for BJP because they feel the Congress doesn't inspire the confidence it once did. And today, I do believe that many people will say, well, if Arvind Kejriwal has managed to create a model that has worked in Delhi and probably might work in Punjab, then why not give the man a chance? I do feel that India at the moment, and I'm speaking very dispassionately, okay? I'm a supporter of the Congress. I will fight for the Congress. But I need to say it upfront here on your show. And this is Rahul Gandhi's missed opportunity. The people of India are looking for that Emmanuel Macron kind of leader. Macron came from nowhere. He is not part of any mainstream party. And suddenly he's going to win a re-election to France in all opinion. What does it tell you? It tells you that people want hope. They want to see somebody inspiring. They want someone who can be even a disruptor as long as they have a constructive agenda for the country. So I think the ball is up in the air. The Congress has a fight on hand. If the Congress doesn't get its act together, AAP will be a natural successor to that role. And that is the way political life is normally played out in any democracy.
Syed Zafar Islam, from the BJP's perspective, would you concede that the current avatar of the Aam Aadmi Party is tougher for the BJP to fight than the current avatar of the Congress? The Congress is like a listless boxer. You can punch them, you can knock them out. AAP seems to, wherever it's fought, especially in Delhi, get under your skin. And even in Delhi, not just did they get re-elected, opinion polls suggest that if there's an election that happens today, AAP could still potentially do well.
Well, Rahul, on a pan-India basis, we have absolutely no opposition from one party. There are several parties in each state. AAP happens to be one of them in Delhi and now in Punjab. Likewise, Congress in some states. But there is no one party which can say that they have a pan-India presence and then they can act as a formidable opposition to Bharatiya Janata Party in 2024. Away from that, yes, we will fight election against all these parties. In Uttar Pradesh, we fought recently with against Samajwadi Party. In some other states, some other political party would be, but there is no one party which, unlike in the past, where Congress used to be there everywhere, but they are conceding a space to other parties, like in Bihar and in Punjab and in Uttar Pradesh, they have conceded to those regional parties, RJD and Samajwadi Party and Baspa, and in Punjab now is AAP. But on a pan-India basis, it is Bharatiya Janata Party.
Oh, sure, but I'm not even making that point. The fact that the BJP is here, the BJP is the primary pole of Indian politics and is likely to be that way for several years to come, I don't think now can be contested. The question is, who against the BJP? Harmeet, you track the Aam Aadmi Party. Explain how significant this opportunity is, because remember, Delhi is a half state. So what Kejriwal does here is limited by the powers he doesn't have. Punjab is a full state. And if Bhagwant Mann and his cabinet can deliver that model of reforming a state like Punjab, which has massive problems in terms of agriculture, problems of indebtedness, problems of lack of infrastructure and industry, problems of drug addiction, problems of people migrating abroad. If he can try and fix some of these problems, create an AAP model, then that is an idea that could percolate to other parts of the country.
Yes, absolutely. I think there is a lot of opportunity at hand. And if you see today's event, he was, to be fair to him, he was generic about Punjab in the sense that there was no cabinet formed yet and he couldn't have made any grand announcement. But if you see the overall imagery at Khatkar Kalan, the ancestral village of Shaheed Bhagat Singh, there the imagery way...
Give us a moment, we'll fix that audio line with Harmeet and then continue this conversation with him. The fact is that if you look at the Aam Aadmi Party, the total number of MLAs they have as of 2022 is 156. The Congress has 762. The BJP has 1339. So the Congress still has manifold the MLAs that the AAP does, and therefore, Reena, what Punjab shows, it took about 8 years to win Punjab. This could be a very long journey. Even if the AAP were to grow, this could be an incremental, slow process. Is there any one particular state that you've identified where you think the ground is most fertile for AAP to extend its presence in next?
So Rahul, I don't disagree with you that it is not going to be a long journey. It is going to be a long journey. But as we have shown, we are consistent. We are a bunch of hardworking volunteers. We will continue to work for the party. We will continue to take the message. Right now, we are going to contest the upcoming elections in Himachal Pradesh and in Gujarat. Those are two focus areas for the party for now. And let us see how we do in these states, and also, the states where we contested last time around, Uttarakhand, UP. We will continue to build our Sangathan in those states, and I'm very sure that in the next 5 years we will do very well in Uttarakhand, UP, and in Goa, where the party has made its presence felt, but this time probably we could not, the message did not go out to enough people. We didn't have a very strong Sangathan in these states. But in the next 5 years, we hope to build on these states and also go to Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat with the same message of good governance, good politics, and schools and Bijli, Pani, Sadak, everything that we've been talking about in Delhi and in Punjab.
Ashish, the Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab was able to build the idea of a Delhi model. As somebody who stays in Delhi, I realize several of the challenges that Delhi's governance faces, and part of it is because AAP doesn't have full power, but they were able to build that idea. Of all the states in India, where do you think AAP could progress to most naturally? Because both in Uttarakhand and in Goa, AAP tried its hands but failed. We're talking about AAP in positive light because they won Punjab, but elsewhere where they tried, both Goa and Uttarakhand, they didn't do well.
Well, so first of all, this model of governance, which is Delhi model of governance, or earlier we used to talk about the Gujarat model of governance. While for the purpose of rhetoric, it is good to talk about a particular state as a model of governance, but as you rightly pointed out, each state has its own dynamics, has its unique and peculiar problems. Punjab has its own peculiar problems. To what extent that model has to be readjusted, only time will tell, and only AAP will know as it progresses with its governance. The second thing, I would like to put this in context, Rahul, for the viewers, is that both Delhi and in Punjab, BJP has historically been a marginal political player. Historically in Delhi, BJP was a very, very marginal player since independence, and so in Punjab, it was a very junior partner to a local formidable force, which was Akali Dal. So what AAP has done both in Delhi and in Punjab, it has displaced Congress in Delhi and displaced Akali Dal, and to some extent Congress in Punjab. And Congress, by the way, is the second largest party in Punjab, even in this election. So whether AAP can replace or displace where BJP is firmly rooted, like Gujarat, like central India, Madhya Pradesh, like Uttar Pradesh, where this idea of the BJP model of not of governance alone, but model of politics, because BJP represents a hyper-nationalistic, majoritarian, authoritarian form of both politics as well as governance, because it also reflects in their governance. They don't give tickets to any Muslim candidates. They completely marginalize certain sections of the population. So whether that
you make a very important point, and I want Sanjay Jha to respond to the point that Ashish Khaitan makes.
That is something that needs to be
it's
seen.
one thing to knock down the BJP where it's weak in Delhi and in Punjab. Completely different to take on, say, the BJP in a state like Gujarat, in a state like Himachal Pradesh, in a state like Madhya Pradesh, where you actually got the BJP strong. Reena Gupta, do you want to respond to your former colleague?
Rahul, if you see in Delhi, BJP has been ruling MCD for 15 years, and their internal surveys have told them that they're going to be routed out of MCD, and that is the reason why they've postponed the MCD elections in Delhi. So even in Delhi, BJP has been there in MCD, but we are routing out BJP out of MCD as well, Rahul. And all of the other states that I'm talking about, even in those states, this Gujarat model of governance, what is the Gujarat model of governance? You look at any of the indicators, human development indicators, whether it's health, whether it's education, all of those indicators, Gujarat does actually really poorly. So it's only Gujarat model is that only a certain section of the society is becoming richer and richer, whereas the poor and the weaker and the marginalized are getting poorer and poorer. So is this the model that we want to want India to be? We want India to be a country where everybody is prosperous, and that is the model that Aam Aadmi Party is taking to other states. That's the model we are taking to Gujarat as well. That सबका साथ सबका विकास सिर्फ कहने के लिए नहीं होता है, ग्राउंड पे भी सबका साथ सबका विकास होना चाहिए. In UP and in Uttarakhand,
Syed Zafar Islam, between attacking the Congress and attacking AAP is that the Congress is a party with a lot of past baggage. You can attack them for Bofors, you can attack them for 62, you can attack them for communal riots. AAP, because it's younger and fresher, doesn't carry the same baggage and therefore is tougher to push back than the Congress is on a national basis, and they think that they will in time to come be able to give a run for your money even in Hindi heartland states.
Well, in Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, just see their performance. They have lost deposit. They fought election in 377 seats. On 377 seats in Uttar Pradesh, they have lost deposit in 370 constituencies. Because they have always misled people in Delhi, and they have also adopted the same approach in Punjab. They will get exposed. Then and today now the organization was only limited to Delhi. It was easy for Mr. Kejriwal to run. Now there is another power center in Punjab, and which is more formidable than what he is enjoying in Delhi. You will see going forward it will be very difficult for him to stay in a position where he is enjoying currently. There will too many people will start challenging him. As far as the voters' preference, it is so evident wherever BJP is there and AAP is there, with the exception of Delhi, you have seen that every voter have preferred BJP over AAP. And
in the Lok Sabha elections, but in the assembly elections, it was different. That's in the Lok Sabha elections, not in the assembly election.
No, even in assembly.
Not really. In the assembly election, the Aam Aadmi Party beat the...
No, in Delhi, I said, in assembly election, only with the exception of...
Okay, Sanjay Jha,
no,
Ashish Khaitan makes an important point, specifically to do with Delhi and to do with Punjab, that AAP was able to do well because their principal challenger was the Congress. Gujarat is different, Madhya Pradesh is different, Himachal, Uttarakhand are different, because there the principal challenger is the BJP, and where you're taking on the BJP, it's not as easy to grow as it is to grow when you can take on a weak Congress.
Well, let me tell you that there's a fact there that Ashish has uttered, because in that case, it becomes a triangular contest, and there invariably is going to be tougher for a new entrant, because even if the Congress has diminished, it manages to hold on to a certain threshold of minimum, vote share. The BJP, and I think Syed needs to be congratulated because his party is so, kind of formidable as a machine. They are already at work in Gujarat and probably even at Himachal. So I agree with Ashish that for AAP to actually increase its footprint beyond small states is not going to be an easy one. Even in Himachal, it's at the moment a bipolar contest between Congress and the BJP. So if AAP comes in, it could destroy the Congress, but it may not be able to upset the BJP. I'll be very frank on your show. In internal conversations, despite being suspended, I have told this to the Congress leaders whom I know very well, and some of them hold very powerful positions. Do not take your eyes off the Aam Aadmi Party. You're focusing too much on Narendra Modi and the BJP. But remember from the Delhi experience, Delhi, entire vote of the Congress has been transported to AAP. And in Punjab, if Aam Aadmi Party succeeds in creating a governance model that keeps people glued to it, the Congress has to really worry about the small states where it is at the moment in a stronger position where AAP could actually give it a real
there's a G23 dinner happening at Kapil Sibbal's place. I'm told that the likes of Shashi Tharoor, the likes of Manishankar Iyer have also reached there in addition to the usual suspects. Now, Shashi, for example, is someone who has a very active presence in the Congress, a lot of respect as well, but wasn't seen as a member of the disenchanted brigade, which he now seems to be very clearly. The likes of Manish Tiwari have been firing away for a bit. So what's cooking there and what do you see happen next?
Well, Rahul, let me tell you, Shashi has been very much part of the G23. And I want to make this statement here, and I say so with a lot of responsibility. G23 is not renegades. It is very unfortunate that Mr. Kharge and Ashok Gehlot have been calling Kapil Sibal names. Nobody has left the party. Nobody intends to. Okay, but the people are concerned because look at the topic of the debate we're having. Aam Aadmi Party, with due respects, is called a political startup in the larger context of India. I think they're doing remarkably well. With due respects to them, the grand old party is ceding space left, right, and center. And if people don't voice their opinion now, when? There may be nothing left to really talk about. So, Rahul, I do believe that the G23 has a very constructive agenda, but I will also add one point. People are at their wits' end. If they do not see a remarkable transformation in terms of changes or leadership, there will be a more vocal outburst that you will see periodically, which might one day result in a pretty difficult crisis for the Congress.
A possible split as well. Harmeet, explain the challenges that Bhagwant Mann faces in Punjab, challenges he needs to be able to deal with so that the Aam Aadmi Party delivers governance in Punjab, which they can then talk about in states like Himachal, Gujarat and elsewhere.
Well, challenges are immense in Punjab. Punjab is a state in debt, and like other big states, there's a debt of some 300,000 crore, and the budget is just 1,70,000 crore. There are issues about drugs, etc., etc. But today I watched this ceremony, oath ceremony. I think in today's ceremony, words mattered little because the speech was just 7 minutes long. And to be fair to Bhagwant Mann, he didn't have a cabinet in place to be able to make some grand announcement. That said, the overall imagery at Khatkar Kalan, the village of Shaheed Bhagat Singh, was extraordinarily loud. It was high on symbolism. the Aam Aadmi Party from Khatkar Kalan seems to have sent a louder message, not just to the Congress, which we are debating. I think it has also sent a louder message to the BJP outside that here is the Kejriwal brand of patriotism with all that Basanti and Sheikh. That patriotism has launched, interestingly, from a non-Hindutva state, which is Punjab. So that is where,
but it's interesting that they're focusing on nationalism and symbols of patriotism, but in contrast to the saffron that the BJP pushes, you've got the Aam Aadmi Party pushing Shahid Bhagat Singh's colour of Basanti, this bright yellow, saying we are yellow if they're saffron and far away from green, without saying anything about green, but making that clear that it's actually reasonably close to saffron, but not quite a different flavour of nationalism and patriotism. I want to thank our guests for joining us on this broadcast. And I want to just show our viewers this story about Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann's oath-taking ceremony, which was at the ancestral village of Bhagat Singh. It seems that after the Congress and the BJP, the AAP has moved very swiftly to try and co-opt Bhagat Singh and the Basanti that's associated with him. By appropriating Bhagat Singh, AAP seems to be placing itself in direct competition with the BJP at the national level. More so when patriotism and ultra-nationalism remain at the centre of Indian politics.
हुकूमत वो करते हैं जिनका दिलों पर राज होता है, यूं कहने को तो मुर्गे के सर पे भी ताज होता है.
A colour of patriotism.
मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर दी सौं चुकदा हां कि मैं कानून द्वारा स्थापित भारत दे संविधान दे प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा ते निष्ठा रखांगा. इनकलाब जिंदाबाद.
A political statement embodied in a nationalistic hue. The saffron of the BJP at the national level is met with the Aam Aadmi Party's Basanti in Punjab. A shade of yellow associated with martyr and national hero Bhagat Singh. The venue of Bhagwant Mann's oath as Punjab's Chief Minister is also high on nationalistic symbolism. An ancestral village of Shahid Bhagat Singh in the Doaba region.
Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh da ek sher वो कहंदे इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है. इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है. क्यों ना इस बार वतन की सरजमी को महबूब बना लिया जाए. देश दी मिट्टी नू प्यार करो. बहुत कर्मां वाली मिट्टी है, बहुत उपजाऊ मिट्टी है. कि मैं
Punjab's first non-Congress, non-Akali government in about 55 years has started off on a patriotic note, when nationalism stays as the running theme in national politics. But the Aam Aadmi Party isn't the first to co-opt Bhagat Singh and his legacy. Then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi invoked the martyr from Punjab when the state was in a deep crisis in 1985. 30 years later, Prime Minister Modi visited Shahid Bhagat Singh's memorial at Hussainiwala in Punjab's Firozpur district. He too wore a Basanti turban.
भगत सिंह, सुखदेव, राजगुरु, उन वीरों की उस महान परंपरा को प्रणाम करने आया. भाइयों बहनों, आज हिंदुस्तान में किसी एक नाम को सुनते ही हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में अबाल वृद्ध सबको चेतना जग जाती है, प्रेरणा मिल जाती है. तो नाम है सरदार भगत सिंह.
After Congress and the BJP, the Aam Aadmi Party has moved swiftly to appropriate Bhagat Singh, and with that appears to be positioning itself as an alternative to the nationalistic front. With Harmeet Shah Singh, Bureau Report, India Today.
We're slipping into a quick break. When we come back, as the Russia-Ukraine war enters its 21st day, is there now hope for a compromise? Details on the other side. Stay with us. Back in a moment.
are
Rahul Kalan, 23 years of experience, 5 conflicts covered, unmatched time in war zone.
The first embedded operation in the history of Indian television journalism.
Gaurav Sawant, 28 years of reporting, 8 conflicts covered, unmatched hours in conflict areas.
Actual firing is taking place, the grads are firing.
Shivarur, 19 years of reporting, 5 conflicts covered, unmatched view of international crossfires.
And the attack guns are firing away.
Geeta Mohan, 18 years of reporting, 3 conflicts covered. When the world is at war, there is no compromise on India today.
They were to be studying in their medical colleges, about 20,000 of these Indian students. But right now they find their future uncertain. They have been forced to come back to India, leave their education in Ukraine, courtesy the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. And these students are completely clueless about what their future would really look like. About 30 medical universities in Ukraine absorb Indian students every single year. But what next, given the uncertainties?
The students of our university are really stressed and anxious because our university was one of the buildings that got bombed during the crisis, and now we are very uncertain about the situations, like when we are going to go back or how much time will it take to go back to its normal working.
Some students have appealed to the government to speak to friendly countries that can accommodate students, since accommodating 20,000 of them in India will not be easy.
We students really want the Indian government to support us during these uncertain times. We want the government to take quick steps so that our time doesn't get wasted and the years don't get affected. It would be an ideal situation if we were transferred to the universities and colleges of India that provide the same quality of education. But since it would not be possible for the government to accommodate all the students here in India, we would like the government to talk to other nations which it has friendly relations to accept the Indian students.
The Indian Medical Association has also written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi asking the central government to in fact accommodate the suffering students right here in India. The IMA says the government now must make an effort to increase seats in medical colleges by 2 to 3% to accommodate all of these students. The intervention has been sought directly from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but right now the government is tight-lipped.
This is Ukraine's true danger zone. Up close and fearless in Ukraine's combat zone. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. This is Ukraine's true danger zone. Up close and fearless in Ukraine's combat zone.
You are watching India Today. You are watching India Today. You are watching.
Here on board the news track, bruised and battered, Ukraine refuses to bow down. Despite relentless Russian strikes, Ukrainian spirit to fight back remains undeterred. The war-torn nation is doing everything it can to stall the Russian advance, even as the enemy troops encircle the Ukrainian capital of Kiev.
Three weeks of hellscape. A ravaged country, flattened and punished by a superpower. Its capital under siege. Armed forces in disarray. Cities burning. But Ukraine continues to show remarkable resilience. Ukrainian guns are far from falling silent. These night images of incredible Ukrainian counter-strike. These night images of incredible Ukrainian counter-strike show how the overwhelmed, outmanned and outgunned nation is still fighting back. Still taking the war into enemy camps. With a brave and determined fight back. The barrage of attacks so far successful in stalling a full-blown takeover of capital Kyiv. By the far superior and much better armed Russian invading force. Ukraine soldiers with tank-killing guns were seen destroying Russian armored carriers and tanks with the trademark Z symbols. The Ukrainian projectiles landing with deadly precision, taking out the Russian combat vehicles. Ukrainian defense also released video of Russian supplies and columns of equipment for its convoy in outskirts of Kyiv, coming under massive bombardment. Drone images capturing the full impact of large-scale explosions.
You know, Ukrainian forces are highly motivated. They're fighting on their own ground, and they're also highly mobile, unlike the Russian forces, which are sort of not mobile at all, really.
While fighting back hard, Ukraine has not abandoned peace efforts. President Zelensky asserted once again that his country has no plan to join NATO.
We realize that Ukraine will not become a member of NATO. We understand this. We are adequate people. Kyiv needs new formats of interaction with the West and separate security guarantees.
Bruised, battered, bleeding, yet biting back. Can Ukraine still do the unthinkable? With Rajesh Pawar in War Zone Kyiv. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where we wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
As Russia declared war on Ukraine, as the world was plunged again into crisis, with the only Indian team in the real war zone.
This is Mariupol. You hear a series. Hear this sound.
I will show you a quick, so to say, bombshell room tour.
I can smell the gunpowder in the air. And without pause, India Today totally dominates viewership and smashes the competition. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
43 planes, 700 cars, 15 helicopters, 20 palaces and villas. These aren't assets of a small nation, of course. All these are owned by one man, the Russian President Vladimir Putin. It is not a secret that Russian President Vladimir Putin hoards tremendous wealth with an exotic and luxurious lifestyle that he lives. Putin is always grabbing headlines owing to his luxurious lifestyle. His lavish super yacht tops that list. According to reports, the president of Russia has a super yacht named Graceful, worth a whopping 750 crore rupees. His super yacht comes with a helipad, a dining area and cocktail bar. 400 bottles of the most luxurious wines from around the world are kept in its cellar. Apart from this, Putin has 43 planes, 700 cars, 15 helicopters. When Putin wants to travel by air, he likes to hop on to his special aircraft designed in the neoclassical style. Reportedly, this plane is worth $390 million, which is about 3,000 crore rupees. It has been named Flying Kremlin, which means Flying Office of the President of Russia. According to a media report, the plane also has a toilet seat made of gold, worth about 35 lakh rupees. This aircraft is like a flying palace. Apart from the gym, bar and 3 bedrooms, it has all facilities needed for Putin to control the army while he's traveling. Political critic Boris Nemtsov compiled a dossier that alleged Putin even has 4 yachts secretly docked around Russia. Nemtsov has added that Russia's leader even has a watch collection that's worth about $891,500, which includes one that is about $535,000 alone. Did you ever wonder how much this powerful leader draws as his income? According to the office of the Russian president, the Kremlin, Putin gets a salary of $1.4 lakh, which is roughly around 1.5 crore rupees. However, according to a website that tracks the net worth of popular celebrities, Putin's annual salary is currently about $2.4 lakh, that is about 1.8 crore rupees. But these are just official reports. The Russian president reportedly earns a lot more than that. Multiple properties have been linked to Putin in recent years. Some reports say that he now owns homes worth more than $1.78 billion. Putin owns about 20 palaces and villas in and around Russia, including Finland, Moscow, Europe, and many other places. Many media reports also claim that he is the world's richest man with a secret wealth around $285 billion as fortune and is said to be living like a king. Well, his possessions speak and can probably convince anyone to agree with.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
Tonight, we are all soldiers of music, wielding the power of art in defense of a free and democratic Ukraine. Music offers solace for humanity, but it can also be weaponized against oppression. Tonight, we are all soldiers of music, wielding the power of art in defense of a free and democratic Ukraine.
It was being broadcast tonight live to Europe, including Ukraine, and I hope that some people there were listening. Yeah. So it's a sort of transference of thought and emotion.
I was crying, I was screaming bravo because I feel like in this moment all of us become like relatives, like one family, one free family.
We're going to jointly announce several new steps to squeeze Putin and hold him even more accountable for his aggression against Ukraine.
Санкционное давление было всегда.
Да, конечно, сейчас оно имеет комплексный характер и создает для нас определенные вопросы, проблемы, трудности. Но мы так же, как и преодолевали эти трудности в предыдущие годы.
Russia has over 5,000 sanctions imposed on it. It's become the most sanctioned nation ever. Here's what Russia is doing to retaliate. For Russia, sanctions aren't a new event. Back in 2014, after its annexation of Crimea, the international community responded with a slew of sanctions. And since then, it's been finding ways to reduce its dependence on the international community. Russia brought down the dollars of its foreign reserves from 40% to only 16% and has about 13% in Chinese reserves. Even though Russia has been banned from SWIFT, the international payment system, it has a Chinese alternative to rely upon. CIPS, or cross-border interbank payment system, claims to have financial institutions in 103 countries, including 23 in Russia. Russia has passed a bill that will allow the nationalization of foreign assets. Simply put, they would seize all that's left behind by the West on Russian land. From restaurant food chains to aircraft, nothing will be spared. Very similar to the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan's assets. United Russia, Russia's ruling party, stated that companies from unfriendly states will have external administration to run these companies. This will impact companies like McDonald's, which has over 850 restaurants, to aeroplane leasing companies like AirCap, which has leased hundreds of aeroplanes in Russia. In what netizens call ridiculous, Russia is also going after the children's cartoon Peppa Pig. How? Russia stated that patented inventions and industrial designs from unfriendly countries can be used without permission or compensation. Russia has approved a list of over 200 goods that can no longer be exported. This includes technological, telecommunication and medical equipment, vehicles, agricultural machinery, electric equipment, as well as railway cars and locomotives. Russian parliament coming up with creative ways to save Russia's tanking economy from the West sanctions. But will these desperate moves be enough, or will it rethink its war on Ukraine?
Watching.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by JK Puncher Guard Tire. Ab hawa nahi niklegi. Co-presented by Fujitsu General, the extreme machine. Powered by Green Ply, India's first zero-emission plywood. In association with Kia Carens. It's from a different world.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points, news with perspective. We'll be looking at the two big stories in the world of politics. The Congress G23 of rebels are meeting at the moment. Meanwhile, the Aam Aadmi Party has its first full government outside Delhi. Its Chief Minister in Punjab sworn in. We'll look at that too. And we'll have an exclusive with the Kerala government, Arif Mohammed Khan, who has strong views on the hijab issue, which was settled in a Karnataka High Court yesterday. Lots to look forward to, but first, the 9 headlines at 9. Bhagwant Mann is sworn in as Punjab's new Chief Minister, takes oath at Bhagat Singh's village. Mann, the first non-Congress, non-Akali Chief Minister of Punjab. It's the first AAP government outside Delhi.
दोनों हाथों पर चाके दो नारे ला दियो इनकलाब
After taking on the Gandhis, Kapil Sibal now faces the heat from Congress loyalists. This as crucial meeting of the so-called G23 rebels begins. Manishankar Iyer, Shashi Tharoor among those who joined the rebel camp. Yogi Adityanath meets BJP President JP Nadda in Delhi to discuss the shape and size of his new UP cabinet. Yogi likely to take oath as Chief Minister again after Holi is over. Protests set off across Karnataka as pro-hijab students boycott classes after the High Court verdict. Students say hijab is their right. Colleges say they will enforce the uniform mandate now. Supreme Court upholds the centre's decision on one rank, one pension for our defence forces, finds no constitutional infirmity in implementation while hearing a plea by ex-servicemen association. Aviation stocks fly high as jet fuel rates hit fresh all-time records, steepest hike ever by 18% amidst the Russia-Ukraine conflict. COVID-19 vaccination for children aged 12 to 14 begins from today. Biological ease Corbevax to be administered. Registration open on CoWIN app. And ferocious Russian bombings continue in the encircled Ukrainian capital of Kiev. Disturbing video shows alleged killing of a man in Russian tank firing. And conciliatory tone in Russia-Ukraine talks after 21 days of ferocious bombing. Ukraine President Zelensky says Ukraine must realize it won't join NATO. Russia says it's open for negotiation. Well, let me turn to the breaking news that's coming in right at the very top tonight. A crucial meeting of the so-called Congress rebels, or G23 as they've been called, has been underway at senior leader Ghulam Nabi Azad's residence. Among others, Shashi Tharoor, Manishankar Iyer present. This meeting is coming in the backdrop of the Congress's election reverses and when senior leader Kapil Sibal, among others, spoke out against the way the Congress was being run and had questioned the Gandhi family leadership. So clearly the battle lines are slowly but surely being drawn. But what does all this really mean? Maushmi Singh is joining me from the national capital. Maushmi, this is not the first such dinner meeting that we've seen in the last 18 months, but nothing seems to come. Are the rebels only barking? Are they ready to bite this time? What is the sense you're getting? Do they really have any plan in place?
Rajdeep, we're at 5 South Avenue. Now, this is Azad's residence and it has been for over 2 to 3 decades. But remember, even after a farewell from the Raj Sabha, Azad has retained this house. Now, let me tell you that apart from the G21, we may call them now, there are new additions to the entire team with Praneeth Kaur and Manishankar Iyer. Shankar Singh Baghela would quit the Congress, is also present. So surely a political menu in the main course and in the dessert is being served. Vivek Tankha just went in and he said that it was nothing political, no rebellion brewing in the camp. It was more a courtesy call. But beyond what is being read, between the lines, if you read, the fact is that the Congress is down and out. Questions are being raised about the Congress leadership. This is a time when Sonia Gandhi is offered to sacrifice the Gandhi family, perhaps on behalf of the Gandhi family if it is needed. So it is actually hitting when it hurts the most. And importantly,
are they willing to bite? Maushmi Singh. Maushmi, my question is, are they willing to bite? It's all very well, all this sound and fury, holding these dinner meetings. We've seen them for the last 18 months. Do any of these leaders actually have it in them to take on the Gandhi family?
Rajdeep, I do believe that this is more of pressure politics, building pressure, because remember the organizational elections are on the cards and in the backdrop of, throwing a challenge. The big question is that whether they'll throw a challenger to Rahul Gandhi in the organizational elections, and in that backdrop, this meeting is being held. It is an irony that on one side you have a core member of this team, Bhupendra Singh Hooda, heading this entire meeting, and on on the other hand, Dipendra Hooda has been campaigning with Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and has been going to other states also. So there is a lot of irony in this entire meeting, and more so the Congress feels that this is amounting to a lot of indiscipline, you know, because the Congress has given an open ground for them to criticize and critique in the Congress Working Committee. So a lot of pressure politics, I think, not much to bite there.
Okay, it's more at the moment you're saying pressure politics, but where will it result? Will it actually result in the Congress now facing some kind of a split? Or is it simply too little, too late that is being done for the grand old party? We'll wait and see how that plays out, Maushmi. Thanks very much to tell us the political menu at the top of the show tonight. Now remember, this crisis in the Congress comes on a day when the Aam Aadmi Party had a singular achievement to its record. Bhagwant Mann took oath as Chief Minister today in Punjab, becoming the first non-Akali, non-Congress Chief Minister of Punjab, and this becomes the second state after Delhi to be ruled by AAP, the first full state it has. The Aam Aadmi Party leader Arvind Kejriwal is now planning to go national, but a lot could depend on how the Mann government performs. Why will all eyes be on Punjab in that sense over the next few months? A report from Ashutosh Mishra.
मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर दी सौं चुकदा हां कि मैं कानून द्वारा स्थापित भारत दे संविधान दे प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा ते निष्ठा रखांगा.
A new dawn in Punjab. Bhagwant Mann has become the 17th Chief Minister of the border state.
मंत्री वजों अपने कर्तव्यां नूं वफादारी ते शुद्ध अंतकरण नाल निभावांगा.
हो अज रंग दे हो माए रंग दे मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला माए मेरा.
The swearing-in ceremony was a grand affair. Thousands of AAP supporters danced to the tunes of Rang De Basanti Chola as Punjab got its first non-Congress, non-Akali Chief Minister.
हो अज रंग दे हो माए रंग दे मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला माए मेरा.
Mann stormed to power, selling the famed Delhi model of Arvind Kejriwal, promising cheaper power, better healthcare facilities and direct cash transfer to women. While he makes good on these promises, Mann also faces a series of challenges plaguing Punjab for decades. These include an estimated debt of 3 lakh crore rupees, thriving drug mafia, sand mining rackets, systemic corruption, and high levels of unemployment.
हम सब मिलके पंजाब के 3 करोड़ लोगों के साथ पंजाब की दशा और दिशा दोनों बदलेंगे.
काम करांगे बेरोजगारी तो लेके खेती, व्यापार, करप्शन, स्कूल, अस्पताल.
The expectations are naturally high. People of Punjab voted for AAP, discarding the Congress Akali duopoly for the first time ever. And now Punjab waits for AAP to deliver.
सब तो पहले तो बेरोजगारी है जी. बेरोजगारी का मसला हल करेंगे. दूसरा विद्या शिक्षा, तीसरा हैगा भ्रष्टाचार खत्म करेंगे.
आपको उम्मीद है कि ये कर पाएंगे?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
गांव में पंजाब सबसे ज्यादा कनाडा, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, यूएस, यूके भागने की कोशिश करते हैं. तो लगता है कि उधर आज जो उन्होंने कहा कि भाई अब यहीं पर रहेंगे, इसी को बनाएंगे, उसमें कुछ सुधार होगा?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सुधार होगा जी. जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया नहीं जाएंगे, कहीं नहीं जाएंगे, जहाँ रोजगार यहीं मिलेगा, फिर तो बच्चे जाएंगे.
Raging unemployment had aggravated the drug problem, an issue that even inspired a Bollywood hit, उड़ता पंजाब.
नशे की बहुत ज्यादा बात होती थी, गांव-गांव में फैला है. कितनी बड़ी समस्या, मुसीबत आप देखते हैं भगवंत मान के सामने इस फ्रंट पर काम करना?
है तो मुश्किल है बहुत. जो पिछली पार्टी हैं उन्होंने बहुत बढ़ावा दिया हुआ है. चिट्टा चुट्टा जो भी है उसका बहुत बढ़ावा है. मुश्किल तो है पर ठीक करेंगे.
इनकलाब जिंदाबाद.
AAP's governance in Punjab, a full state it will govern for the first time, will decide how far the party can take the Kejriwal model as it pads up for a national innings.
From delivering on the front of health and education, eradicating corruption, the drugs menace, and moreover creating the maximum sources of employment and livelihood. And these are the challenges that people want Bhagwant Mann to urgently give his attention. Well, that's the expectations here on the ground by these people from Bhagwant Mann. In Punjab, this is Ashutosh.
Can the Aam Aadmi Party then take over the Congress's space? Will the Hindi heartland accept AAP? Is the Congress a sinking ship? Who can really fight the BJP better, the Congress or AAP? Questions to be raised tonight on a day when the Aam Aadmi Party's government has been sworn in Punjab. Jasmine Shah is Vice President, Chairperson and an AAP spokesperson based in Delhi. Rahul Verma is Fellow at the Centre for Policy Research. Supriya Srinath is Congress's spokesperson. Let's get straight to that big question. Really today, do you expect Jasmine Shah, the Aam Aadmi Party, making a national pitch based on what we saw today in Punjab, or do you concede that it is still a long way to go before the AAP can call itself a national alternative? That winning Punjab is one thing, creditable though it is, it isn't about, at the moment, capturing the soul of India.
Rajdeep, I don't think anybody is waiting for the Aam Aadmi Party to say whether we are going national or not. The reality is the day the Punjab results were announced and the picture was clear, Aam Aadmi Party's acceptance as a national party and a welcome, a heartwarming welcome by the people across India was very, very clear. And it has started today, the invitation and the love and the warmth with which people across the country. You must have heard MLAs and ministers in Haryana and Himachal saying कि अब तो काम कर लो वरना अरविंद केजरीवाल आके आपके स्कूल ठीक करना शुरू कर लेगा. So the question for us is not whether we are going to replace Congress, who will be better, against BJP, Congress or AAP. The question the people of the country want to know is who will finally fix our schools. For 75 years, why does our government schooling system still sort of have to look like a red piece of work? Who will fix our healthcare system? Who will finally fix issues of unemployment? So these are the long-standing issue. And today, if there is one face that inspires confidence, who has unquestionable honesty and who has a track record of delivery, in just 5 years, we have turned around sector after sector in Delhi. And that is the Kejriwal model of governance that is today being talked about, not just across India. Internationally, people are seeing the rise of Aam Aadmi Party as a hope, because you see, as a country, our GDP is going down, inflation is sky high, unemployment is at a 50-year high. So who's going to fix these issues? Only a party that is founded on the idea of honesty, corruption-free governance, and the people who are winning in Punjab and the MLAs. I mean, look at their backgrounds; they are professionals. You have 13 doctors, you have 7 lawyers, you have an MBA from Oxford University. These are the professionals who are finding space today only in Aam Aadmi Party. No other party seems to be interested in such people. So that is why across the country, AAP today stands as the hope.
You say you stand for hope. Supriya Srinath, when you hear Jasmine Shah speaking, do you see someone who's emerging in a way as a potential challenger to the space that the Congress once occupied, that as your footprint shrinks, the Aam Aadmi Party could now look at first taking on the Congress's mantle as a credible national alternative? Jasmine Shah says AAP represents hope, represents change, the Congress in a sense the old order.
Quite frankly, with all due respect, and I would like to congratulate them on being sworn in Punjab today, and I hope they can put the law and order situation under control because they haven't had previous experience with that in Delhi. I do wish them all the very best. It's a sensitive border state. But having said that, I think there are two things that I want to put forth today, because I've now been on innumerable debates with you and other places on how AAP is being projected as somebody who can replace the Congress. I just have one question to ask of the viewers via you today. What is the space that the Congress occupies? And I want to ask one question. When Delhi was torn with riots, where was the Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal? Yes, he did not have the police under him, but he was protesting at Rajghat. He did not even visit the sites. The Congress has occupied for 75 years, when people ask, the space of a secular, inclusive India. The AAP is too eager to be Hindu before the BJP is too eager to question us for 75 years. What is AAP's idea of India? I respect the fact that they talk about education. I am on board with Mohalla clinics and, infrastructure and all of that. But what is your vision for India? Why is it that you never take on Modi head on when it comes to majoritarian, polarized, and may I dare say anti-minority politics? I have not heard one spokesperson of AAP, or for that matter, their national chief Arvind Kejriwal, ever come close to that. There's never a head-on collision. They're too happy to be supported by the RSS in case the BJP fails. They're too happy to occupy that.
You're making a serious. Supriya Srinath, on what basis? No. You have said that. You're claiming that the AAP is being supported by RSS. You really believe that?
I do believe that the AAP is too eager to outdo the BJP when it comes to majoritarian, when it comes to being projected as a devout Hindu. The same chief minister who kept quiet when Delhi was torn with riots was seen celebrating on all TV channels through paid media Diwali with all his ministers. What is this all about? When was the last time Arvind Kejriwal put out a statement against what happened to the minorities in the CA and RC
What's wrong with celebrating
When was the
Diwali?
last time he went visiting?
What's wrong with celebrating Diwali? What's wrong with celebrating Diwali? The AAP has won in a state with the with one of the large religious minorities of the country, which is Sikhs. Are you saying AAP is anti-minority?
Rajdeep, that's a very good question that you're asking. But the question that, the direction in which I'm taking this debate, and the question that you're not asking me is, why was Arvind Kejriwal not present when Delhi was being hit by riots? Where was he? Why was there not one statement Mr. Arvind Kejriwal gave on Kapil Mishra or on Anurag Thakur, who incited the public? Why does Mr. Arvind Kejriwal never talk about the majoritarian polarizing politics of the BJP? Because he's too comfortable playing the B team. And yes, I say it with all the responsibility bestowed on me here.
Jasmine Shah, 1 minute now.
That's the only question.
Jasmine Shah, two questions come to you. One question, ma'am, now, Jasmine Shah, one is, what is your idea of India? And B, the specific charge which is being made that Arvind Kejriwal, when riots took place in Delhi in 2020, was seen to be relatively silent because he feared a backlash from the Hindu community, and therefore he too is being accused of being, dare I say, BJP light or Hindutva light.
Rajiv, let me answer the second question first. And, this is very, very typical vintage Congress, because, more than BJP, they have a lie factory and they keep spinning and uttering these lies, without any shame. There are pictures of the CM and the deputy CM to be the first amongst any of the parties. I will not even ask Congress question, where were you? Because this is not about what about we. Today, the people of Delhi believe in Arvind Kejriwal. There are no two questions about that. We were the fastest to dispense compensation after the riots, and whatever was there within our powers, we have done that. But this, incessant ridiculing other parties as if it is their right to be the natural opposition party and never talking about their work. This is the reason why Congress has been reduced to a ridicule today. In the entire Punjab election, we were the only one talking about कि देखो हमने दिल्ली में स्कूल ठीक कर दिए, हमने अस्पताल मोहल्ला क्लिनिक्स बना दिए. Even the Congress spokesperson here is saying कि हाँ मानते हैं आपने अच्छा काम किया. अरे भाई आप भी तो बताओ ना, आप तो 75 years
से इस देश में राज कर रहे हो. What is your idea of India, Jasmine? Jasmine, they want to know what is your idea of India.
Our idea of India.
No, ma'am. No, 1 minute. No, Supriya ji, 1 minute. Yeah, go ahead.
You asked us about our idea of India. Our idea of India was answered by Arvind Kejriwal ji the day Punjab won again, and he has repeated this many times. Our idea is enshrined in the vision of Baba Saheb Ambedkar and Bhagat Singh. What do they want? What do they want to see? They want to see that India emerges as an educated nation. We talk about India एक सुपर पावर बनेगा. अरे कैसे बनाएगा? आप बच्चों को आपने कभी शिक्षा तो दी नहीं. We want rich or poor, a son of a driver or a judge or an officer to get world-class education, public-funded world-class education.
Right.
We want fairness. We want justice for everyone. Why are today the poor still, looking at largesses of the government across the country? Today, you look at what happened during COVID. You look at the status of healthcare. You look at higher education. You look at
It was your government in Delhi, sir, when many of the state hospitals also failed us in COVID 2.0. Let's be honest, you're still a work in progress. You can't claim as if you've turned Delhi into some kind of a magical land.
I'm not saying that.
No.
Rajiv,
Yeah, so let's be very clear.
I agree with that. I agree. Let me respond to that. I fully agree that if it took 75 years to bring India to such poor level of development, we will take some time. But today, if you can look at any state with any amount of hope, it is Delhi. And I'll tell you why. Today, Delhi government is the only one spending 15% of its budget. Year on year, we spend 15% of our budget on health. We spend 25% of our budget in education. Now ask me give me an example, Supriya, of one Congress state in the history of India since independence that spends 15% on health and 25% on education. You want to talk about idea of India? Today you answered in this debate, what is your idea of India? Have you ever spent on education or health? You tell me today.
Yes, Supriya Srinath, and then I'll go to Rahul Verma. You want,
Rajdeep, can I please come in?
Please come in, very short. Give me a short response. The Congress believes everyone else must spell out its idea of India. What is your idea of India? What is your model state? 1 minute, sir. No, Jasmine, 1 minute.
That's a very precise question. Have you spent as much as our government is spending in any state in the last 75 years?
Okay, bottom line is they claim they have a Delhi model. What is the Congress's model, Supriya Srinath?
I think the Congress's model is for everybody to see. We kept an India that was inclusive, we kept an India that was secular, an India that has been torn at its seams, an India that's fabric is being distorted, and the Aam Aadmi Party doesn't even call that out. That is their idea of India. And my friend, because you quoted Bhagat Singh, I will just in 10 seconds quote a line that Bhagat Singh wrote. The real duty of the newspapers is to educate, to cleanse the minds of people, to save them from narrow sectarian divisiveness, and to eradicate communal feelings, to promote the idea of common nationalism. Please walk the talk on Bhagat Singh. It's good you took the oath in his village, but understand Bhagat Singh was vehemently opposed to communalism, something that you dare not open your mouth on.
Can I just ask my producer? You both made your points. I've given both of you time to explain where you stand. Just a minute, Jasmine. Just a minute. Rahul Verma, you're listening patiently. I have some numbers. You're a number man. Because let's look at the bigger picture. Winning Punjab is a huge achievement. It's now won 2 states and it's less than a 10-year-old party. But when I look at overall numbers, BJP still has 1,443 MLAs. Indian National Congress, 753 MLAs. AAP is still at 156. Am I to understand that, are we overreading what happened in Punjab? That come tomorrow, Himachal, Gujarat, the AAP can just spread into these states? Or is AAP a work in progress?
Yes, we are overreading, but as you rightly pointed out, they are in a good position now to make inroads into other states. It does not mean that overnight AAP will become a national party and will have presence in many states. Even in Punjab, and we have to remember this, that the first 4 MPs that Aam Aadmi Party won in 2014, they came from Punjab, not Delhi. So Aam Aadmi Party had traction in Punjab for 8 years. In 2017, they didn't win, but they performed extremely well and they became main opposition party in the House. So what you saw in 2022 was a build-up of 8 years, and such a situation was unique to Punjab. It's not the same situation in Gujarat and in Himachal Pradesh. Congress party had to remove its chief minister. Akali Dal BJP coalition broke apart. Farmers movement had resonance. So Punjab's situation was unique. And in that situation, AAP managed to capitalize on the gains. I do think that AAP always had national ambitions. In 2014, they contested nationally, though they didn't do well at that time. So AAP is, and even in Goa, they now have 2 MLAs. So they are going to move into states like Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat, and they are likely to make some gains. Can they catch up Congress at this moment or in the next 2 years? I think unless some extraordinary situation develops as it developed in Punjab, I don't think AAP will be basically able to catch up Congress. Congress still has a greater national presence and will have more MLAs or MPs at its command. And as Supriya pointed out, and that's right, AAP at the moment is focusing on the governance issues, and governance issues do have their own resonance. So Delhi model has its traction. But at some point of time, AAP will also have to have a little bit more clear ideological platform. And those ideological platforms are not on governance issues, because all parties would agree, though they might not be performing well on, say, health or education. Ideological platforms are actually on contentious issues. So AAP will have to develop that clarity, and that clarity will come with time. So final point, going forward, AAP is definitely a rising party, but they will need a lot of time to become where they think they are going.
Jasmine, the point is, you keep saying the Delhi model. Punjab is a very difficult state to govern. Look at Punjab's numbers when it comes to their fiscal debt at the moment. Look at Punjab's numbers when it comes to unemployment. I'll put those numbers up in a moment. We look at Punjab's numbers when it comes to a state which is struggling, when it comes to electrification, when it comes to schooling, health. The scale is much bigger than even Delhi's crisis. So, the problem is you've raised a lot of expectations. You won this huge victory, but with rising expectations also comes the fear that if you don't meet them, the AAP balloon could burst. Is that a fear that you have, that handling Punjab, particularly with a potentially hostile centre, won't be easy?
Rajdeep, we are not saying it is going to be easy. In fact, if you ask me, AAP should have happened to Punjab 20 years back or 10 years back, because let's remember, why did Punjab get here? Punjab was never like this. It was one of the most prosperous states in India, very hard-working people, very productive land, and very prosperous. In 50 years, we've had roughly 25 years Congress government and 25 years Akali and BJP government. The result of which is you have 3 lakh crores of debt that has piled up. Aam Aadmi Party's biggest asset is our honesty. Let's not forget the number one ailment. Sector after sector you go in Punjab today, you see sand mining, you see there is a mafia. You see the entire issue of the drug addiction is because political forces and police, and there are many other nexus was so huge that no political party was going to be able to tackle it except for AAP. And similarly, many other sectors, there is a tanker mafia, there is a liquor mafia. So Aam Aadmi Party today presents the best hope, because everybody knows that each and every MLA and the CM of Punjab, Bhagwant Mann, he stands for honesty. He stands for the idea of a common man. You look at who are the MLAs today who have won, and you get the idea of why today Punjab's best chance and best hope for fixing itself and preparing itself for future is the Aam Aadmi Party.
Very quickly, therefore, Supriya Shinde, you see, the AAP can today say what Jasmine says because they don't come with the same historical baggage that you do. Today, when the Congress goes to any state and says we are going to eradicate corruption, people will say, but look at your past history. You see, you come with the baggage. They come, in a sense, as a startup. Is that one due, while you have the old organization, they have the energy of a startup. Do you concede that or not?
What you call baggage, I call heritage. And I don't think, we can remove our heritage and we can put our history aside. I think to pave the way for the future, you do need history intact. I will only say one very last thing. 753 MLAs you pointed out, 156 of the AAP, 1 MP versus that doesn't matter. What matters is what is your vision for this country? The fact that there are certain sections that are very upset with Mahatma Gandhi not being visible in Punjab offices today, I think is a serious cause of concern. We cannot sideline the Mahatma. The BJP does it. You increasingly sound like the BJP when you counter us. At least counter us differently. Do not counter us with the same argument that the BJP gives. That's why I say you are the B team.
BJP cites you the budget for education and health. I don't remember that.
Please bring good ideas to the table. Please relax. I am telling you where the budget for health and education is. The budget for health and education is important, but so is the peace and tranquility of this country. So is the rights of minorities.
Give me one state where the Congress has built a model state. Supriya Shinde, I want to know which is your model state. Which is your model state at the moment? You're in charge in Punjab, Chhattisgarh.
There are several.
You are in charge in Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh. Give me one state which you can claim, this is what we will make India. All very well to talk of idea of India in the abstract.
Is a model state.
Which is your model state?
No. 1 second, Rajdeep. I am not talking in the abstract, and you jolly well know I'm not talking in the abstract. I'm talking about Muslims in Delhi, what happened to them, and Kejriwal kept quiet over that. As far as my idea, the model state is concerned, why is Chhattisgarh not a model state? Why can Rajasthan not be a model state? Look at what Chhattisgarh has done to farmers, their rights. Look at what Chhattisgarh has done to stray cattle that UP is still struggling with. There is so much that our governments have done. Look at what Rajasthan has done with a health insurance policy for all its citizens. There is so much that our states. Are you telling me that this country was built in 2014? Or are you telling me that 26,000 COVID deaths in Delhi account for nothing? That's your model. The right to education came in 2009. Yes, you capitalized on that and you did build up something. But 26,000 COVID deaths is on you, and that is your model according to me. But your idea of India, nobody knows about. Your vision for this country, nobody knows about. Secular or polarized, you side on the side of people who are talking majoritarian, exclusivist views of this country, because you choose to keep quiet. And in a scenario like today, if you keep quiet, silence is actually worse than joining them. Your silence is what is worrying.
Okay.
And your silence, you believe, is going to get you votes. I believe defies the idea of India that I believe in.
I'll leave it there. I wish I had more time, but I appreciate your joining us and giving us what you all both talk of, your idea of India versus the Delhi model. We'll see which model is more accepted by the people over the next 12 months. The next 12 months will see many more such battles where the Congress and AAP will be contesting for a similar political space. Thank you both, all three of you, very much for joining me. To the other big story, in a sense linked, because Congress President Sonia Gandhi today made a rare intervention in Parliament, accusing the Narendra Modi government of misusing Facebook and Twitter. The Congress chief raised a new report that has claimed that social media platform Facebook offered cheaper advertisement rates to the BJP compared to opposition parties, and also how surrogate ads that spread fake news about the BJP's rivals were given prominence ahead of the 2019 elections. Take a look.
The rising danger of social media being abused to hack our democracy.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi firing a big salvo against the Modi government in Parliament, accusing it of misusing Facebook and Twitter to interfere in India's poll process. Referring to an Al Jazeera report claiming platforms like Facebook are brazenly partisan to the BJP, offering it cheaper deals for poll advertisements.
Recently, Al Jazeera and the Reporters Collective have demonstrated how a toxic ecosystem of proxy advertiser posing as news media is flourishing on Facebook, bypassing election laws of our nation, breaking Facebook's own rules, and completely suppressing the voice of those who are speaking up against the government.
The charge is amplified by Congress MP Rahul Gandhi, who in a tweet took a metaverse jibe at the BJP, accusing leading social media platforms of hyping up BJP's narrative and soaring its campaign reach.
If Facebook has a level playing field for all political parties, we don't have an issue. But Facebook is clearly, through these reports, are preferring the ruling establishment, either for commercial profits or for the other ends, we don't know.
News के रूप में प्रोपेगेंडा फैल रहे हैं कोई कंपनी जो हमारी रूलिंग पार्टी के लिए, भाजपा के लिए ये सब कर रहे हैं, और ये ठीक नहीं है, क्योंकि हमारे लोकतंत्रता के लिए इस किस्म की फेक न्यूज़ चलना नहीं चाहिए। सोनिया जी चाहती थी कि सरकार इसमें भी कुछ एक्शन ले ले, तो हम देखना चाहिए कि सरकार का क्या जवाब होता है।
Congress ally Shiv Sena urged Congress to end pseudo-secularism to fight what it called fake narrative by the BJP. Mouthpiece Samna said the Congress is unable to fight BJP propaganda like on issues of Hijab and Kashmir files, and must learn from TMC, Samajwadi Party and Shiv Sena. Across the world, there have been reports of social media platforms being misused to spread fake news and to influence elections. Sonia Gandhi's charges now pit the Congress in a direct face-off against global social media giants.
Time and again, opposition is alleging that a ruling party is using social media platforms to shape up a political narrative. They have also been demanding that all the social media platforms be reined in. But so far, there has been no progress. Today, when Congress President Sonia Gandhi raised the issue of social media platforms being used to hack the democracy, once again the opposition was up in arms against the government, demanding that either a policy or some checks and balances should be put in place in order to rein in social media platforms. Vidya Journalist Abhishek Supriya Bharadwaj for India Today in Delhi.
Let's turn from there to our other focus today, because a day after the Karnataka High Court upheld the hijab ban in educational campuses, students remained divided over the entire controversy. In Bengaluru, some students said they would remove their hijab while they entered the school and follow the court order. But in other parts, there was resentment with Muslim girl students seen wearing their hijab and entering the campus, but then being told to remove it when in their classrooms. Many refused to do so, and it resulted in a boycott. Pro-hijab graffiti was seen on the walls of a college compound in Vijayanagar district. Petitioners, meanwhile, have approached the Supreme Court challenging the Karnataka High Court order. What does all this mean? What does this hijab ban by the High Court now really mean? What is the way forward? Is there any possibility of bridging this divide? Joining me now is the Kerala Governor, Arif Mohammad Khan, known to have strong views on the hijab issue. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Governor. The Karnataka High Court judgment evoking contrarian responses, those who believe this is narrowing freedom of choice, those who believe that this ensures institutional rules and discipline is maintained. Is there a middle ground that you can see that can take this issue forward, put an end to it, find some way to achieve a solution?
You know, I do not know what is the ground for taking contrarian view, because as far as the citizens of India are concerned, the women of India are concerned, they have every freedom to choose whatever they want to wear. Here the question was very limited, and the limited question was whether in schools and colleges the authorities have the right to prescribe a dress code for their student. There are so many times it happens. There is some emergency, the children are going on tour somewhere. So the authorities always want they want to recognize not by name but by the dress of the children that they belong to their own college.
Yes.
They are trying to widen the scope of the whole thing, as if the government of India or government of Karnataka is prescribing or denying people the right, women the right to choose their dress. In fact, there are even schools which allow hijab. They can very well, if they don't want to follow the code of a particular school, they can transfer to the other school.
You know,
where is the problem?
The problem, according to those who believe that yesterday's judgment is flawed, is that judgment goes against Article 25 and the whole issue of religious freedom, that every individual has the right to explore his or her conscience.